We're doing lesson number 6, forging forward. So dear friends, this is what we're doing today. This whole course has been looking backwards. History has been a very, very big theme of this course. We've always been looking at what's been happening in the past. Today we're looking at the future. We're looking at the stuff that we don't even know what Jewish law will say about this. These are new emerging conversations that are still being discussed today, and we don't even know ourselves what to say about them. So we're going to be learning about some new technologies, some really, really fun stuff that are exciting imaginations. Maybe they were considered science fiction just a few years ago, but they're seemingly more and more, they're right in front of us. They're right upon the horizon. Some of these crazy innovations. And what will Jewish law say about them? We're going to be talking a lot about these types of things. So, a foundation of this whole course has been that we don't look at Judaism as an archaic system, that we're just trying to keep up an old code of law. There you go. Help yourself, Max. We could also pass it around. All right. We don't look at the Torah, even though it was given 3,300 years ago, over 3,300 years ago. We don't look at the Torah as a text of those days. Rather, we look at the Torah as a living, breathing text that is still talking today, talking to every single era, which is the core belief that we believe as Jews, and this has been the theme we've seen throughout history. We've never said throughout history, you know what? Judaism was given 3,300 years ago. Conditions on the ground were unique then. And whatever, the world evolves and an ancient code of law doesn't evolve. So if you're going to go to ancient Egyptian law, I'm sure it was great law, or maybe not so great, but for those times. But if you try living those, it's not going to help us today. Why? Society is different. Our priorities are different. The issues that we're facing as a society are different. So it's not dealing with our problems, and it's addressing problems we don't have anymore, so it just doesn't work anymore. But Judaism, we believe, is a timeless code of divine law. Our sages tell us in such a powerful statement that God looked into his blueprints, and with that he created the world. What are the blueprints? The Torah. And so our sages tell us the Torah even comes before the world. There's no world first, there's a Torah, and the world is designed with the vision of the Torah. So, according to that, there could be nothing in existence that emerges in existence, and technology and innovations, that Torah does not directly address, even if it doesn't seem that way. So today we're going to be learning the stuff that really challenged that idea. But this is what we're going with. Torah is a blueprint of the world. New innovations are not in conflict with Torah. We don't say, okay, Torah is old. We have new things. Torah can't tell us what's moral or what's ethical or what we should be doing in such a situation. No, we believe that all these new innovations that are coming out as history progresses, they're all waiting for us to bring them into the light, into the clarity that Torah is going to give to us. So there's no question that could come up and we'll say, I don't know, just Judaism has nothing to say about this. Impossible. Core belief is, if we humans are dealing with it, the Torah gives us guidance if, how, and when. So dear friends, today's class is going to be split into 2 parts. Part number 1 is going to be fast-paced examples of Jewish law engaging with emerging innovations of today. I want to give you a tour of 4, 5, 6 different topics. Things which maybe are not even happening yet, but science is starting to develop them, and they're really challenging what Jewish law would say about this issue. And I just want to give you a taste. It's not going to be in depth. Many of these issues have not even been resolved. There is no authoritative response even on it yet, although there is discussion about it. But I just want to show you what we're dealing with today. And maybe in 100 years from now, 200 years from now, our grandchildren are going to be taking a course called Captivating Cases in Rabbinic Responsa, and they're going to be learning about the stuff in history. 200 years ago there was a case, and the Jews had to deal with it then. But today we're going to be looking at it, looking in the future. Part number 2, which I want to dedicate most of today's class for, is going to be, will AI replace rabbis? This is a big, big question. It's come up throughout the course, and this whole effort that we've been discussing of rabbis having to do the hard work and figuring out how to take Judaism, whatever we have from Jewish law, the Talmud, and applying it to today's cases, is that whole art going to be somewhat extinct because of AI? And that's a very, very big topic. We got to address that. Is my job going to be going extinct? Should we put on this light over here? Is that better?
Yeah. Sorry.
If I see people falling asleep, I'll just... Boom!
Yeah.
All right. What was that?
Oh, when it was on so last, it was glaring.
Yeah, it's too much.
It was too.
So...
This.
Right in the middle.
That good?
That or off, either.
Off? We'll do off.
Yeah, that's.
No problem.
Any objections, anybody?
No.
No problem. And it's good. Now if it's on, then I can't turn the more on.
My glasses.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay, no problem. All right. Let us begin our journey over here. Dear friends, we are beginning with our first topic today, space tourism. Have any of you had the itch to go to space?
No.
Maybe you will. Let me show you a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Come on.
I would love to.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. All right, let's do a little bit of a video which will tell us about what are the possibilities and how it's maybe going to be something that will be much more affordable and much more common in just a few years. Let's watch this video.
Space tourism, no longer science fiction, but science fact. Ill-minted astronauts include tycoons Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. Celebrities such as actor William Shatner
I'm Captain James T. Kirk, commanding the Starship Enterprise.
of Star Trek fame.
The most profound experience.
Two companies, Bezos' Blue Origin and Branson's Virgin Galactic, will rocket you to the edge of space and back. It's a suborbital joyride, 50 to 60 miles above Earth, with a total trip time up and down lasting as little as 11 minutes. Nearly 120 people have launched for the two companies so far.
These are purely civilian flyers in most cases, and you have to call that space tourism.
And doing it for fun.
You're pretty much doing it for fun. You know, you're getting your 4 minutes of weightlessness. You're getting a view of the Earth that only astronauts have ever gotten before.
In 2022, mountaineer Vanessa O'Brien flew to the edge of space with Blue Origin and loved it.
You are able to see something that is so precious. It was seeing that blue marble from above. And it translates into a sense of almost responsibility and an appreciation that we really are all connected, that it is one planet.
Elon Musk's SpaceX offers next-level orbital adventuring. In 2021, billionaire Jared Isaacman financed Inspiration 4, an all-civilian crew of 4. They orbited Earth for 3 days. Another space company, Axiom, has chartered civilians all the way to the International Space Station. Ticket prices are reportedly stratospheric, roughly $500,000 per passenger for an up-and-down trip.
3, 2, 1.
Somewhere around $200 million to charter a SpaceX capsule into orbit.
Those up and down suborbital flights have a better chance of, getting down to an affordability level that might appear a bit more reasonable.
Will those flights be more affordable to more people anytime soon?
I do think the prices can get down to the point of an around-the-world cruise, something like that, in fairly short order.
So strap yourself in once prices begin to drop. The future of taking a selfie from space is already here.
All right.
I'd rather have the around the world cruise.
How much does that have to... See, he's not giving a price. How much is a around-the-world
I
cruise?
don't know, but it's not less than $500,000.
It's at least less than 200 million, you're saying.
It's less than $500,000 even, which is the up and down.
It depends who the cruise line is.
Right, it could be $500,000.
Yeah.
The around the world cruises
Cruise,
are
like-
80 to 120, I think.
Yeah.
80 to 120,000.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Okay.
for
I'd
$500,000
rather save,
for
$200,000
4 minutes.
more.
That's
No. The $500,000 thing was for 3 days.
Yeah, I thought that was.
That was the
sub-
12-minute one.
I think that was the suborbital one.
Okay.
$500,000.
Yeah,
The other,
suborbital, yeah.
Yeah.
So the suborbital was $500,000. So he's saying for today, it's not happening today, but it's a very big hypothetical that within the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this is going to be something which, our children, our grandchildren, maybe even us are going to be, this sounds like an interesting idea. Let's take a little trip up to space. So, what then is the question? What do you think is going to be the halachic question over here? What's
Shabbos.
Oh, here's the big question.
Shabbos.
let's actually back up. There's a more fundamental question, which is not as exciting of a question, but it is an interesting question. Times, yeah. But here's a more basic question. According to Jewish law, a Jew needs to take care of their personal safety, not allowed to put themselves in direct risk. At what point are we going to say that space traveling is considered a safe thing for a Jew to do? It's a big question. If you want to go, I don't know, to do like a risky type of activity, I don't want to call any out because I don't know myself.
Skydiving.
Skydiving, let's say. But like certain things which, people would say it's on the edge. Like, would I call my mom before I skydive or tell her after? Only after, right? So that's the question.
I told my mom.
After. So that's like part of it. Like,
After or before?
Before.
Okay.
So would Jewish law even allow that? So that's number one. At what point is space traveling going to be something that, is deemed common enough, safe enough? I imagine getting on the airplane at some point was considered a very, very risky thing to do. Today, all right, no one thinks twice. It's totally fine. You go on the airplane, no problem. Some people get a little bit shaky, but it's okay. But everybody understands that this is a safe endeavor for you to be doing. So, question number one is simply: would space tourism would it be prohibited to the Torah's ban on engaging in a dangerous activity? But there's a much more exciting question going on over here, which is so much of Judaism is built around time. The orbit of days. The cycle of days. So, a mitzvah which is not bound by time, like do not steal, and I don't know, what's a good mitzvah? To give charity, not time bound. Okay, it doesn't matter how fast your days are flying around you, you do that. But any mitzvah that is dependent and emerges out of time, that becomes a very sticky situation because when you are orbiting Earth, every 90 minutes is a full orbit. So you got 45 minutes of day, 45 minutes of night. And that becomes a very, very big problem. Do you have to daven every 90 minutes? You'll be very busy up in space. You only got 45 minutes to get those tefillin on, daven, take them off. You got to daven now. The midday prayer is mincha, and then ma'ariv, and then no time to sleep. You're praying the whole day. No time to eat. And then when do you do Shabbos? Shabbos is after 7 cycles of night and day. 6 cycles of night and day, and then the 7th cycle is going to be Shabbos. So are you every 3.5 hours keeping Shabbos for 90 minutes? My math is a little bit off over there. Not every 3.5 hours, every 9 hours, something like that, right? 8.5 hours, okay, something like that. I never had such a good math brain. Okay, but something like that, right? The question is, are you keeping Shabbos a few times a day, every few hours? Let's read this in text number 1 in our books. Text 1, page 233. We'll start getting our hands and feet wet over here. So, Richard, you want to give us a read over here? Text 1, page 233.
This Richard?
Yes, not Richard, right over there.
There's another Richard.
The one I'm looking at.
All right.
We'll get them soon.
If a Jew is abroad a spacecraft that orbits Earth every 90 minutes, half of each orbit in daylight and half in darkness, completing about 60 orbits in 24 hours, what is the law regarding the observance of mitzvah that are time dependent? The question concerns mitzvah that apply only during the day, such as the morning Shema, or only at night, such as the evening Shema, or mitzvahs that apply at specific intervals, such as Shabbat and the Jewish festivals.
Okay, now this is a question, by the way, that is not so futuristic because it has already been asked by the Jewish-Israeli Ilan Ramon, 2003. What was it called? The Columbia Challenger or something like that? Yeah. Columbia. Unfortunately, right, and it went down on its way down. But he kept Shabbos in space. And he wanted to be a proud Jew. I don't know if he was an observant Jew, but he felt, I'm the first Jew going up to space. I want to keep Shabbos. I want to be Kiddush in space. So he actually went through this whole process of going to some of the leading rabbis, asking for when do I keep Shabbos? Okay, a little bit of a sad footnote over here is that one very important rabbi in Israel said, I refuse to answer this question because I believe that space exploration is prohibited under what I just mentioned, the prohibition that's too dangerous. So I'm not even going to discuss the question of how to keep Shabbos in space because I believe that the whole venture is prohibited in the first place. Okay, which has proven a little bit true. So,
right.
Meaning I'll leave it at that.
In that
Did he jinx it? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, but whatever.
50 years?
Maybe not. Exactly. And that's also another question. At what point does an activity become safe enough? It's being done so much that now it's already considered safe. Okay, we're not going to get into that so much. But what Ilan Ramon did, okay, let's start going through the options. On page 234, we have 6 options. Every single one of these options is using, these are not 6 options that are being pulled out of thin air. These are 6 options that if, these are all based on a Talmudic principle that make all these 6 options a good, viable option. And I'll put them up over here on the screen as well. When you're keeping Shabbos in space, these are the options. Option number 1 is never. Why never? Because you're not in an environment of time, which is a basic Jewish idea is that if you don't have something to do a mitzvah, you don't do the mitzvah.
If you wear a watch, what happens to that watch?
Well, the watch is probably just running on its own cycle.
On our time.
Yeah, but a watch doesn't make time. It's just a tool that helps you. But real time is the environment, right? What's actually out there. If you have a wrong clock, does that mean that the wrong clock is making any real determination? Clocks don't actually set time. It's just a way for you to, keep track. Option 1 is never because you don't exist in the space of time. If you don't exist in the space of time, anything that is dependent on time doesn't apply to you. It's a very interesting principle. If Pesach is coming and you don't have any flour or water for whatever reason, do you eat matzah? You can't. You don't have it. You don't do it. So this argument is, you don't have time. Just don't do the mitzvahs that aren't dependent on time, which would, by the way, be an argument. Maybe a Jew shouldn't go to space. Don't put yourself in an environment where you can't do so many mitzvahs. But the argument is, but if you're already in space, you don't keep Shabbos. Another argument is, you follow the cycle of day and night for you. You're experiencing the cycle of night and day every 90 minutes. So every 7th 90 minutes, you are keeping Shabbos for 90 minutes. It's hard to have a Shabbos dinner in 90 minutes. You know, you got to make kiddush, wash, eat, daven, put your talis on shachrit, make havdalah. Right? Everything's moving very, very quick. That's another option. Option number 3 is you keep Shabbos if the spot on earth directly under you is keeping Shabbos at that moment. So make a straight line down to earth. If on that point on earth they're keeping Shabbos right now, you keep Shabbos.
Be Shabbos completely, continuously.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, so they can't really be Shabbos continuously.
Just 24
But
no, just 24 hours.
maybe a little bit more than 24 hours. But it'll be a little bit weird, like Friday afternoon, let's say, for example, let's say it's Friday afternoon, 2 o'clock. And if I'm not mistaken, you're orbiting from west to east. I believe so, right? Anybody know? No space explorers over here? I believe the orbit is from west to east. But it doesn't matter which way, because this logic works the same way.
They could do it.
They could do either way. Okay. I've never done it before, you see. Okay. So 1 second. Let's say it's Friday afternoon and you're over New York. It's not Shabbos yet. So you're Friday. But a few minutes later, you're over Europe, and all of a sudden, it's Shabbos. And then a few minutes later, you're over Australia. It's already Sunday, not Shabbos. And then you're back over New York. Oh, we're lighting candles, and now it is Shabbos. So on Friday and on Saturday night, Sunday, you could be in a very weird position of where you're literally going back and forth between Shabbos and not Shabbos every few minutes, which is quite a weird situation going on over here. But this is option number 3. You just follow your spot on earth. Option number 4 is, from when you go into space, count 6 shifts of 24 hours. Your 7th 24-hour shift is your Shabbos, nothing to do with earth. So if you took off on a Tuesday, you start counting 24 hours. Your first 24 hours is Sunday, first day, second day, 7th day Shabbos, even though it's Tuesday. But you're just making your own time, 7th cycle of Shabbos. Option number 5 is, whenever Shabbos is observed from the place that you launched from, Cape Canaveral, right, in Florida, that's where you keep Shabbos. This is what Ilan Ramon did. A rabbi told him to do this. From the place that you left, that's your Shabbos. So the moment it was candle lighting time in Florida, that's when Ilan Ramon kept Shabbos, no matter what was happening on his orbit. And as soon as Shabbos ended there, that's when he finished Shabbos. The 6th option is the same exact thing, but you follow the Israeli calendar. When in Israel they're keeping Shabbos, or really Jerusalem, you follow Jerusalem. Which means if a Jew is not tied down to any space, your home is Jerusalem. So follow Jerusalem time. Okay. Again, every single one of these options are good options. They're all sound, but it's a big discussion. Let's now move on and make things even more exciting. Going from space exploration, which is already a thing of the past. Come on, Ilan and Ramon already dealt with this over 20 years ago. Let's talk about some new stuff going on over here. Let's talk about colonizing Mars. Okay, so we know when you go to Mars, the first thing you're going to find is what? Is a Chabad center. That's number one. And chances are it's going to be my cousin also. But maybe I just don't know about him, long lost cousin. Like, hey, you got lost on Mars. All right, but we got a real big problem over here because Mars, on the one hand, is a little bit more stable. It's a little bit similar to Earth, but we now have some more questions going on over here. So let's read this next text number 2, Daniel, which will walk us through the possibilities of creating a Jewish world on Mars.
Mitzvot on Mars. In this article, I will focus on the halachic challenges of mitzvah observance as they arise on the planet Mars. Since Mars presents a particularly unusual and exceptional case, Mars is the 4th planet in our solar system. Its diameter is about half that of Earth, and its gravitational pull is approximately 40% of Earth's gravity. A full day on Mars lasts 24 hours and 37 minutes. On one hand, if we define the halachic day based on the Martian day and night, the cumulative difference of the extra 37 minutes per day would eventually lead to a situation where Shabbat on Mars would fall when it's Tuesday or Wednesday on Earth. On the other hand, if we ignore the Martian day and define the halachic day strictly according to Earth's 24-hour cycle, people will end up praying Shachrit in the middle of the Martian night.
Okay, so here we have 2 possibilities. First of all, it's very tempting because the Martian day is 24 hours and 37 minutes. So, we're really working on the same schedule over here. Kind of. But here's a question. Will it bother us if Judaism on Earth and Judaism on Mars are just 2 totally separate schedules? That's essentially the question. We like when all Jews work with the same calendar, same schedule. We're all celebrating Purim the same day. It's not like, oh, you're down south, so you celebrate Purim 6 months from now. No. We like doing things together. Shabbos is Shabbos for all of us together. So now it becomes an issue. If we have 2 communities, the Jewish people of Mars and the Jewish people of Earth, so if they follow their days, what's going to slowly happen is every single week, their Shabbos is going to slowly go off schedule of our Shabbos because we are working on 24-hour days. They have 24-and-a-half-hour days. So every single week, they're about 4 hours ahead of us. And we're falling behind, and all of a sudden our Shabbos is on their Tuesday. It's just a little bit weird. It gets even more weird. The full year on Mars, so our year is 365 days. Their year is more like 600-something days. That makes an issue. So are you stretching out the Jewish calendar to be double as long? Do the holidays get double as long, or do you just add a lot more days and weeks in between holidays? And that becomes another big problem over here, that like if you're on Earth, you're doing Pesach every 365 days. But if you're on Mars, you're only doing it half as often. So it's just like a very weird thing. If this ever happens, like is there just going to be 2 separate Judaisms going on 2 totally separate schedules, which is a very unideal situation. But the other idea, which is Mars just follows Earth, means that just nothing makes sense on Mars. Shabbos begins 10 a.m. Why are we doing Shabbos 10 a.m.? Because on Earth, it's starting Shabbos now. So on Earth, it makes sense. Now sundown. It's not sundown over here. It's Tuesday, 10 a.m. Why am I keeping Shabbos? And next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m., you're going to keep Shabbos. Nothing's adding up over here. So that's also very, very weird. So now it gets even harder. A major part of Jewish time is following months, which follows the moon.
Right.
Mars got two moons, but none of them follow our schedule of our moon. So how are you making months? Everything is about months. Are you following Earth's months, which means, again, that you don't have any natural, intuitive sense of time? Like us, it's very intuitive. It's starting to get warmer. Oh, this is the season for Pesach. Pesach always comes at the beginning of spring. It's starting to get a little bit nippy. Okay, high holiday season. Really cold, Hanukkah. It's there. Everything's intuitive. Everything begins at the same time. Holidays begin in the evening. So we have 2 options over here. Or really more than, the same thing. If you look in your book on page 236, we kind of have the same options again over here for Mars, which is when you keep Shabbos on Mars. Option number 1 is again never. You're not in the space of Jewish time, so you don't keep any time-bound mitzvahs. Or you do the 7th 24-hour cycle after the first Jew arrives, which means, again, you just run your own independent sense of time following 24 hours. Number 3, the 7th Martian day, after the first Jew arrives. Number 4, when it's observed at the last place of origin on earth. Number 5, when it's observed in Israel. And these are just questions that are keeping some people up at night. Not me. But what are we going to do when people get to Mars? This is going to be a big, but this is definitely going to be a hard thing to figure out. Okay, moving on to the next one. And these are really tough questions and sensitive questions. I want to talk about the topic of surrogacy. So surrogacy is not at all today science fiction. So this is already a very, very big halachic discussion, surrogacy. But I want to just introduce to you the topic of surrogacy, and then I want to bring it to some really, really cutting-edge stuff going on today, or not even yet going on today. So surrogacy simply is like this. A woman does not have the capacity to hold the baby and to deliver the baby, for whatever reason. But she has healthy eggs. She could mother the baby, but she just can't gestate the baby. So what do? You find another woman who becomes the host mother for this fetus. And for the 9 months, she is the one who allows the baby to incubate within her own womb. She births the baby. And really what happens over here is you've got 2 women involved in the creation of this baby. You have the genetic mother, and then you have what's called the gestational mother. And the question is going to be, who is the real mother according to Jewish law? So the genetic mother provided the egg. The gestational mother carried and actually birthed the child. What do you think? Which one should be the real mother?
The genetic mother gave it to the gestational mother.
Right, for sure.
Right.
But is that the stronger role of the mother? And that if we have to choose who is the mother, it's going to be this one over that one. What do you guys say?
Who raises the child is more important than who births the child.
Yeah.
Oh, who raises a child is very, very important. The question is, that can be a core identity.
Yeah.
Even if somebody raises a child, it doesn't change the child's DNA, for example.
But what happens when the mother, if, God forbid, the genetic mother passed away while the gestational mother was incubating the child? That's another one.
But it doesn't make a difference. God forbid a father passes away when his wife is pregnant. Is he not the father anymore?
No, he is the father at that time, but who raises the child?
Who raises the child
that speaks to what the other raises.
Very, very good. No. I'm not saying it's not important, but ultimately identity is always going to be very, very clearly defined.
How does a gestational mother get the child to gestation?
It's done in a lab. It's done in a lab. They remove the egg from the genetic mother. They combine the sperm with the egg in a lab under specific conditions, and then they insert it.
Who decides for the gestational mother to carry the eggs?
No, this is something which is arranged. You go to a hospital.
The
I don't
only way
have.
they can arrange it is if the genetic mother.
For sure, she's agreeing to it. The question is if there's a lot of areas in Jewish law where we need to know who the mother is.
The intention of the women may be relevant.
No. It's about core identity. It's about core identity. Or in other words, like this. So I'll tell you where it's relevant. Let's say there's a child who is the product of a surrogacy. Okay? Mm-hmm. Who are his actual siblings? And the important question is, you're not allowed to get married to your own sibling. But if it's another woman's child and it's not your mother, you're allowed to get married to that person. So that's the big question. Let's say the gestational mother gave birth to genetic mother's child, but she also has her own children, and actually this child from the surrogacy actually likes a girl from this family, wants to get married to her. Am I a sibling or not? So this is not a question of who raised you, who had the bigger impression upon you. This is a very important question of core identity.
Genetic.
So you say genetic for that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Nobody for gestational? I'll give the argument for gestational. Ultimately, who's making this baby? Physically, who's building this baby from the ground up? So you have a cell. This mother gave a cell. But we have a person here. Who made this person?
The
Father and the mother.
No,
Father and the mother made the person.
God.
Yes, yes. But at the end of the day, a mother's job is not just to provide an egg. A mother literally builds a baby from the ground up. Who said that's not so important? Maybe that's even more important. Maybe. Now, there's good reasons for either side, and it's not a simple answer at all. And I don't want to hear. I'm not here to give you the answer, and I'm not. We don't have time to either get into the ins and outs of it. But this is a very, very serious question over here. It's a very, very serious question. Core identity. Okay. Now, another very big reason why gestational mother is important in Judaism is because when we speak about laws, for example, of the firstborn child, which is also relevant, by the way. Let's say you're not the firstborn child from the genetic mother, but you are the firstborn child from the gestational mother, or vice versa. Are you considered firstborn? That becomes very, very relevant for questions such as inheritance or other areas of Jewish law. There's dozens of examples where we need to have clarity, and in general in Judaism it's very important. There's a very big value in Jewish law. Identity is absolutely critical. We need to have, in the Jewish community, we have to know who's father, who's mother. There has to be clarity of these things. So now, the Torah describes sometimes, when speaking, for example, about the firstborn, the first one to emerge out of the womb. Peter rechem. And the Torah uses that phrase quite often. So maybe from the Torah's choice of words, the first one that emerges from the womb, maybe that means the gestational mother is more important than the genetic mother. The point is there's good arguments for both sides, and it's not simple at all. But let's make it even more complicated. All right? This was just the introduction. What I really want to talk to you is about a very fun topic called... What's going on over here? A very fun topic called... Let me try this out over here. Mitochondria. Now, yeah, we all know about mitochondria, right? I don't really know much about mitochondria. Mitochondria is a very, very critical part of the DNA. It's not actually part of the DNA, but it's connected to the DNA. Mitochondria is only given over by the mother of a child. So we are all working off of our genetic mother's mitochondria. And that is the machinery that powers the human body. So we're going to be talking about the concept of mitochondrial transfer. And since you probably do not want to hear me explaining it, I'm going to have a video explaining it. This is mine? No. This is yours. Okay. Mine's over here. Perfect. So enjoy this little video by mitochondrial transfer over here.
Mitochondrial diseases cover a wide range of conditions caused by genetic mutations. In the UK alone, they affect thousands. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They use a process called oxidative phosphorylation to generate energy. But a mitochondrion is a complex piece of machinery, and a lot can go wrong. It takes around 1,500 proteins for mitochondria to function, and problems with many of these can lead to disease. The cell's nuclear DNA creates all but 13 of these proteins. The rest are coded for by the DNA in the mitochondria themselves, and mutations in either can cause problems. A cell has just one nucleus and many mitochondria. All a cell's mitochondria contain their own DNA. If a mutation affects mitochondrial DNA, some might be healthy, others defective. And different cells can have different numbers of defective mitochondria inside them. That means that some cells may be less affected than others. The diseases caused by damaged mitochondria can also be varied. They can affect any organ or tissue, and they can appear at different times throughout life. For example, Leigh syndrome is the most common type to develop in childhood. It can affect patients in a number of ways, including loss of skills, epilepsy, and problems with muscle function. Mutations in over 75 genes in both nuclear and mitochondrial DNA can lead to this syndrome. So what can be done to tackle mitochondrial diseases, like Leigh syndrome? Treating patients is difficult, but in some cases the disease can be stopped before it's passed on. Mitochondria are inherited from the mother. If the mutation is in the mitochondrial DNA, this inheritance can be blocked. One approach is to combine the nuclear DNA from an affected egg cell with healthy mitochondria from another woman. The embryo would then have nuclear DNA from the original mother and father, and mitochondrial DNA from the egg cell donor. This has led some to call such potential infants three-parent babies. This technique is still very new, but it has recently been approved in the UK. It may be a controversial approach, but techniques like these could finally help combat these devastating diseases.
All right, wild stuff. Three-parent baby. This gets even more crazy. It's not just a matter of, one mother's DNA, but just another mother carrying the baby. But now it's already the core DNA itself has been mutated to have the DNA from two different women. This gets even more tricky. So, who's the real mother?
I have a question.
Yes.
What determines if a child is Jewish?
The mother. That becomes a very important question.
What part of it? Her mitochondria or her total cell?
The mother's identity is how Jewish identity is given over. But over here, this question is also relevant to that. So let me get into that. It's not a question of what is the part that gives it over. It's a spiritual transfer. It's not a DNA transfer. The question is, what determines what is the core role of the mother? And if that's missing, what do we say it's not there? So these are the questions. What are the big halachic implications of mitochondrial transfer? And here we go to the big question of identity. If you say that the identity of the mother is determined by who the gestational mother is, then do we have an issue here with the mitochondrial transfer? No, because at the end of the day, it's only this one mother who's gestating the baby, and because of that, we have no questions of the identity. Even if another woman's mitochondrial DNA was introduced into the mix, that doesn't bother us because there's only one gestational mother. But if the identity of the child is determined by the genetic mother, now we got real problems over here. Because now we have two mothers. And this is what's keeping people up at night. Okay, another situation. Let's actually read over here, this text over here. Where are we holding? Stuart, up to you. Text number 3, page 237.
Mitochondrial transfer. In technology, whatever can be done will be done, regardless of moral reservations on the part of some. Fait accompli, even if immoral in inception, poses halakhic questions that, even if unwelcome, must be answered. In instances of mitochondrial DNA replacement, who is the mother? Is the mother the woman who produces the ovum from which the nucleus was taken, or the donor of the mitochondrial DNA? If only some defective mitochondrial genes are replaced, who is the mother? In as yet unanticipated situations in which replacement genes are donated by multiple women, who is the mother? Is it possible that the infant may have multiple mothers, since each donor of genetic material is to be considered to be one of the neonate's mothers?
All right, so over here we got a real problem. Who is the real mother? And again, the implications or the ramifications of this question in Jewish law are by the dozen. It goes back to the question of core Jewish identity. Let's say one mother is Jewish, one mother isn't Jewish. Which one's going to determine what should be the identity of this child? Also questions, even just a basic question, there's a mitzvah Torah, you have to honor your mother. And there's certain legal elements to that. What are you being held to? Does this child have for both mothers, one mother, this mother, that mother? It's an interesting question. And even much more serious questions than that. Including, for example, marrying siblings of this woman. Okay. Let's now give another take on this question. It has come up on social media over the past few years. I think they've done it in Asia. Something called the artificial womb, which is, they've done this successfully with a lamb. You take a sperm and egg of sheep, and you create an artificial womb, which has all the liquids and all the environment of a regular womb, and you literally gestate a baby not in a female sheep's womb, but in a artificial womb. And there's a birth. So here is an animal that, yes, has a DNA of animal parents, but the entire gestation and the birthing had nothing to do with an animal. So now, when we go to animal, it's not a big deal. Even that's a question. Is it considered a kosher species? It's considered an animal. But when we speak about humans, this is a massive question over here. So if you have a woman who, for whatever reason, cannot carry her own child, the concept of an artificial womb is very, very powerful. You don't have to introduce another woman to be a surrogate, which maybe some women will be more comfortable with this. I don't want another woman involved. I want it to be just me. My womb can't carry the child. Let's make an artificial womb. That's in a lab, and 9 months later, what do we got? A baby could emerge from the artificial womb. So here we have the same questions happening all again, but now just in the reverse. So let's read this next text, Debbie. Text number 4, page 238.
Ectogenesis. There's a theory in medical science that it will be possible to have a fetus develop from a fertilized egg without implanting the egg in a woman's body. Instead, it will develop inside an incubator that will replicate the conditions of a woman's womb. In this incubator, the embryo will grow from the initial stage of a fertilized egg to the final stage of gestation, when a fully developed fetus will emerge into the world. In such a case, who is this child's mother?
Okay, so now we have the same question of what determines the mother, but now it's reverse. If you say that the genetic mother determines who the mother is it an issue if you have an artificial womb?
No.
Not an issue at all, right? Because the genetics are very, very clear. There's one mother here, but if the mother follows who gestated the child, here we got a massive question over here. Does this mean that here we have a child who halachically only has a father and does not have a mother halachically? Which means, yes, there is a female that exists in the world who gave DNA, who gave an egg for this child to be developed, but because she did not gestate this child inside of her human womb, there's halachically no relationship between this human being and the genetic mother who gave the genes. Unbelievable question. And it goes even further. Ready for a scary question? Are you even considered human? Would this person be considered a human? What determines a human? What determines a human? That you have human DNA? Let's say they build you in a lab using human DNA, the same, I don't know, using an electric printer, but using human DNA. What makes the human? Somebody who looks like a human, feels like a human? It's a very interesting question. Generally speaking, the definition of a human is a living, breathing being who emerged from a human mother. This person did not emerge from a human mother. You emerged out of a machine. If a machine made you, I don't care where you got DNA from. If a machine made you, do you have the halachic status of a human even? Unbelievable thing.
What if you were molded out of clay?
You're not. Are you? You're right. Was a golem considered a human?
No. Oh, I was thinking of Adam and Eve.
Even Adam and Eve. It's a very interesting question. What made them human if they didn't come out of a human being? Or the real truth is, Eve did come from a human being.
Right.
But Adam didn't. So maybe the whole human line only begins with Eve, not from Adam. But in any case, these are very serious questions, and you really have to get down to the very nitty-gritty of how does halacha ultimately determine what makes a child, what makes a human being, and these are very, very serious questions that are going on today. Let's move on to a not-so-sensitive topic. Let's talk about a fun topic, something called lab-grown meat. So today, you could go to Soul Cafe and you can get a cheeseburger because the burger is not a burger. It looks like a burger. It tastes like a burger, kind of. Just kind of. What was that?
Is that really true?
It's not a real burger. It's not meat.
It's impossible.
It's called the Impossible Burger. You could go to Kroger and buy something called Impossible Burger.
I'm asking if Soul Restaurant actually has.
Yes. The Soul Cafe has a cheeseburger. It's called the Impossible Cheeseburger. And it's not using a real burger because that would be totally not kosher. But it's using impossible meat, which is not real meat. It's actually made out of like garbanzo beans or whatever.
Not dairy cheese.
No, it's dairy cheese over here.
Sure?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was vegan. It's not vegan?
In Soul Cafe, no.
I
Soul
know,
Ca-
I thought that they did that, right?
No, I'm pretty sure the cheese is real cheese, but the burger is not. Okay, but today there's a new cutting edge situation going on of actually creating real meat, but not from an animal, just coming from a lab, which is a pretty exciting concept for many reasons. Let's watch a little video that will talk to us a little bit about lab grown meat. Here we go. Look at that. It's nice.
There has been a lot of hype around cell-cultivated food, but how viable is the industry? What does it entail? And more importantly, will consumers bite?
Can you do the honours and lift the lid on your creation?
Over a decade ago on The Edge, we reported on the world's first ever cultured beef burger. Unveiled by Professor Mark Post from Maastricht University, it cost around €250,000 to produce. He went on to set up Mosa Meat, a company which aims to bring the burger to the masses, and he's not alone. There are now hundreds of startups developing their own lab-grown products, but just how do they do it? It's a relatively simple procedure, and similar for both meat and plant-based production. For meat, simply take stem cells from animals' tissue, add a nutrient-rich solution and watch the cells multiply into the three main components of meat: muscle, fat, and connective tissue. Then put the cells into bioreactors, or as they're more commonly known, cultivators. These cells are then separated and rearranged to build a final edible product. This part of the process is called scaffolding and can be very complicated. A steak, for instance, needs a lot more scaffolding than ground meat in a burger. The entire process takes between 2 and 8 weeks, but the payoff can be huge. It's estimated that just 1,000th of a pound of cow cells can create up to 4.4 billion pounds of beef. That sounds like an impressive return. So what's the holdup? Well, cost is a big issue. Currently, lab-grown meat is around 40% more expensive than animal meat. And then there's health and safety concerns. All production must happen in a completely sterile environment because the cells have no natural immunity from diseases. And while traditional meat is nutritionally dense, most of its proteins, vitamins and minerals are introduced via animal feed. You have to add these nutrients into cultured meat, and it's still unclear whether today's additives provide equal nutritional value in the long term. As a result, regulators can't seem to align on the technology. Singapore became the first country in the world to approve cultured meat for human consumption in 2020. The US followed suit 3 years later, and the UK's Food Standards Agency approved use for pet food in early 2024. Italy, meanwhile, has banned the production, sale and import of lab-grown meat entirely, with the government citing its potential negative impact on the country's farming industry. France and Romania might do the same. The EU so far has not offered any guidance, but if it does greenlight use, it could put Brussels on a collision course with angry farmers. Some critics are calling for more research into the environmental impacts of cultured food, especially if production is ramped up significantly. After all, the manufacturing process still requires an energy source, but those championing the industry believe the benefits outweigh the negatives. They say cultured food has the potential to dramatically reduce food waste, tantalize our taste buds with things we've never traditionally eaten, and could provide health benefits by tailoring food to nutritional needs, such as removing gluten or saturated fat without compromising on the taste. According to consulting firm McKinsey, cultivated meat could make up as much as 0.5% of the world's meat supply by 2030, making it a $25 billion global industry.
All right, I think we should invest in lab-grown meat over here. All right. Now, lab-grown meat is a crazy concept because we are not taking meat from an animal to make more meat. We are taking cells, stem cells, and they say theoretically we could even do it with a hair from an animal. They get hair from an animal. And we could recreate out of thin air, just from this DNA, from an animal, we can make meat. Now, it's an interesting question. I don't want to put anybody in the spot over here, so don't worry. But, would people who are vegan or vegetarian because of sensitivity to animals, well, they say this is totally fine. I can enjoy my steak and the animal gets to live. It's gross.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have it in the house. We wouldn't have cheese. Like, we wouldn't have cheese and it didn't kill an animal.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So, that's true. If you don't have cheese, you don't have an egg. Yeah. Okay. So, But for a lot of people, it's a very, very tempting concept. I don't want an animal to be killed for my food consumption, but if the animal gets to enjoy life and I get to enjoy life, a win-win over here. It's an interesting question going on over here.
Maybe a lot more people eventually.
Oh, this could also maybe solve a lot of hunger problems over here. So, but the big question is in terms of kosher. Let's read a text, and there's 1.5 million questions that come out if this becomes a reality, and it already is becoming a reality. Debbie, are we up to you?
I think I just read.
Okay, so Max.
In recent years, the question of whether lab-grown meat is kosher has shifted from a theoretical discussion to a practical halachic issue.
So one second, we are on page 240.
Since discussions began in 2013, following the unveiling of the first stem cell-based hamburger by Mark Post, the field has seen several breakthroughs. Today, the cost of producing cultured meat is much closer to that of conventional meat, and the product resembles regular meat in appearance, texture, and taste, with the aim of reaching complete similarity. As a result, halacha questions surrounding lab-grown meat are no longer matters of science fiction. These include, is this product kosher only if derived from a kosher animal, perhaps even only from a kosher animal that was properly slaughtered? And should it be classified as fleishik or parv?
All right, let's start breaking down these questions over here. What was that?
Good question.
Great questions.
You can't take meat from a live animal.
Oh, so number one, think about this. You take a cow on a farm, and you go with a syringe or even just take off a tiny bit of hair, and now you got some good DNA or a stem cell from it. And you go, and 3 months later, in a lab, you have a piece of steak from this animal. Is the animal kosher?
Yeah.
It's a kosher animal. Kosher cow. Here's the problem.
Why not?
Is it kosher? Now, 1 second. A cow is not kosher automatically.
No.
It has to be slaughtered. It has to be slaughtered. Over here, I have meat from an animal, or I have meat, and the animal that it originally comes from is still alive, walking on the field. Was never slaughtered. So you can say, well, it's not meat from the animal. It's made out of DNA from the animal. Is that kosher to consume? And there's another problem, which is what you're mentioning. Very, very good. It's forbidden. One of the mitzvahs in Torah, you're not allowed to eat meat from a living animal. Now, if you're eating kosher, it's really not a problem either way, because you got to slaughter the animal in order to make it kosher. But this is a mitzvah for non-Jews as well. It's given to Noah for all of mankind. No human being is allowed to eat from a living animal. In the olden days, this was how you did it, which was unbelievably, it's crazy to even think about this. This is very, very common. You just slowly chop off pieces from an animal. It's like that it could still stay fresh. So, it's like they could eat it over a few weeks or a few days instead of killing the whole thing and then most of it becoming spoiled. So it's a mitzvah from the Torah. You can't animal cruelty. But over here, maybe it doesn't seem so cruel, but that's essentially what we're doing over here. We have a steak that comes from an animal that's still alive. They could say, but come on, the animal is not hurt, it's totally fine. Nothing is good, it's healthy. So this is a big question, which touches even a bigger question. Is this even considered animal meat? Is it considered meat? Is it fleishik, or is it a parv thing? Maybe it's not even meat. It looks like meat, tastes like meat, but meat, it comes from an animal. This is not meat from an animal, so maybe not. And then we get even a better question. Can we, if we say it's not meat, because it's not really from an animal, could then it become kosher to eat lab-grown pork? Because you take a cell, is a stem cell up for kosher? For example, you're not allowed to eat pork, but a hair from a pig, a hair from a horse. If you by mistake somehow a little a hair from a horse ends up in your food and you swallow it. I'm not suggesting anything, just right hypothetically over here. Did you violate? Is that considered not kosher? No, because it's not food. It's not right. It's here. So if I take a hair, which is not even considered food, it's not part of the rubric of kosher, not kosher, and I make out of that bacon. Could we all of a sudden have eggs with bacon over here? You know what I'm saying? Served in Soul Cafe, lab-grown bacon, tastes and feels and everything just like the real thing. So these are very big questions, and there's very good arguments to all different ways. So I'll just tell you what's happening today, and this is the facts on the ground. And there is one company in Israel. It's called Super Meat. 2.5 years ago, they approached 2 kosher certifications for kosher certification, the OU and the OK. which are two of the oldest kosher agencies in America, and they both had to make a determination. What are we going to consider this? Could we say it's kosher? Are we going to consider it meat? Are we going to consider it fleishik? How do we deal with the issue of not eating food that comes from a living animal? So what they said is, which is controversial, you can go on their website if you want to read articles. The OU has an article where they explain why they came to this reasoning. But what the OU says is, they consider it fleishik, just like meat. They only accept lab-grown meat that comes from a animal embryo, kosher animal embryo, and that's how you get rid of the issue of taking from a living animal, a cell from an embryo. And they consider it meat, fleishik, and only kosher animal, and needs to come from an embryo. And some say that we could even be looser with those rules, but this is where the halachic decision-making is weighing a lot of factors, including common sense and the fifth factor, which we learned about last week, and lots of other stuff, and better judgment and counterweights and all those types of fun stuff. So, dear friends, it's already 8:08, and we spoke a little bit over here about all types of fun topics which are at the cutting edge of technology, and therefore as well at the cutting edge of halachic responsa. And by the way, for most of these questions, we actually don't even have proper answers yet. The way it works is a rabbi usually is not going to give a responsa until somebody asks it as a relevant, practical question. So rabbis usually will not go and give an authoritative answer on a hypothetical. They wait until it's relevant and practical, which means in God's world right now, halacha needs to meet the moment, which means we are being charged by God to fulfill our duty of bringing Judaism into a new part of reality and to give a halachic ruling, and only then will they do it. What happens until then is you'll have scholars, sometimes even lay people, but who are also scholars, and they'll write articles where they'll at least share some ideas. They're not going to give a final ruling. Usually they don't have the credentials to give a final ruling, but there's already discussion happening in the world of Jewish dialogue about what possibly could be the considerations over here, etc., etc. But for most of these questions, we actually don't even have a final word of what Jewish law says on these things. On that note, I want to now talk about the main part of today's class. Already 8:10. There's a story. There's once a dinner. A Jewish organization makes a dinner, and they had to honor a few rabbis with sharing a few words. Now, rabbis have a problem that once they get the mic, they just don't know how to stop. Not me personally, but it's a condition out there. So, it's a problem if you have, you're honoring 5 rabbis to speak at a dinner, that could get out of hand. You got a whole program over here. So the directors of the dinner sat down with each rabbi and they says, listen, we know you all have a lot of very important stuff to say and everything, but we need to cap it at 6 minutes. 6 minutes, and by hook or by crook, you need to be down after 6 minutes. So we're going to have a timer in front of the dais to be able to see the countdown. And when it's 30 seconds, I'm going to start tugging your pants when it's 30 seconds left. And we're gonna pull you off the stage. And please don't make a scene. Please don't make problems. We need you to commit. You're going to keep to the 6 minute time. So the rabbi says, absolutely. Okay. One rabbi gets up and begins and says, I was approached by the arrangers of this dinner, and they said that it's very important. We're on a tight schedule, only 6 minutes. And I want to be respectful. So therefore, I'm only going to be speaking for 6 minutes tonight. But before I begin speaking, I'd like to share with you a few words. So I guess that's kind of what's been going on over here. I thought this would take a little bit less time going through these fun topics. But what we really got to talk about tonight, now we're really going to start the class. So we'll start counting an hour and a half from now. You got an encore presentation tonight. Well, you think it's going to be easy? If you don't worry. We're going to be at like about 11:30, 12:30, whatever. But if you got to leave early, just let me know. It's okay. I'm just kidding. We're going to go maybe a little bit over time, but not too terrible. What was that?
So when I start snoring, sit up. Now I have much choice there.
When you start snoring, I'll turn up the lights. Okay.
Thank you.
Dear friends, let us talk about a big question, which I even felt myself so often it was a thought in my mind. Some people have brought it up, I think mainly in the morning class. So we're talking about this whole process of what rabbis need to be doing to determine and the hard work. Could it be that AI is going to get so good, or maybe it is already good enough, that we don't need rabbis anymore? We don't need rabbis to hear questions and start doing research and writing responsa. It's great, and we have it in our pocket. ChatGPT, or we can make even a special artificial intelligence app. You ask it any question, it'll tell you what you need to do. That is a big question we want to talk about today. Is AI going to be putting the halachic process out of business because it has access to all the books, could search it faster, can compute all the data faster, analyze all the scenarios, and write out a beautiful response faster than you can? That is a big question. And by the way, some jobs are already coming at risk. They say computer engineering, computer coding. It's already, AI could do so much. You don't need these lower level interns or lower level staff. You just have the main guy, tells AI what he needs, and builds websites and builds apps and builds all types of fun stuff for you. That's the big question over here. What do you think? Do you think AI is equipped to deal with this process of halachic responsa based on, now you're all professionals on the process a little bit. So what do you say? You've been here for 5 weeks. Is AI up to par to do this job? What do you say? No. Well, I didn't hear why. Why, Debbie?
It's hard to put into words, the human touch.
You're saying we need a human touch. Yeah, well, number one, first of all, that's a very good point. That was last week. Last week was the fifth factor, which is the unwritten volume of Jewish law.
Oh, I missed last week.
Oh, you missed last week. It was a great class. You got to listen to the recording. Fifth factor means you don't answer questions, you answer people. You have to take into account the environment, the person. Everything goes into account. The rabbi cannot answer questions in a vacuum. They need to know you. ChatGPT is the most depersonalized thing. It makes as if it knows you. It makes as if it has a personality. But really, ChatGPT, every single time you talk to it, it's like a brand new thing. Even if they know your name, because somewhere they have in their memory box what your name is, even if they know what your hobbies are. Essentially, it's like every time they talk to ChatGPT, it's a brand new angel showing up. I don't know who you are, brand new identity. There's no investment. When we speak to each other, there's investment. There's me, I'm the same person I was yesterday. And when we speak, I'm invested in our conversation. So if we had a good conversation, we were both invested, and tomorrow we continue from that place of closeness. If we had a bad conversation and we ended up last week talking and it was really bad taste in our mouths, I see you next week. It's not like, I don't know who you are. Let's begin chatting right now. No. We were invested, so we bring all that baggage with us for the good and for the bad to the conversation. ChatGPT and all AIs are, by definition, machines that are totally depersonalized from you, even when they make it sound like they are very close to you and even know stuff about you because they have little pieces of memory that they keep in mind with you. This, by the way, is called tokens. I learned this the hard way once. I uploaded a document to ChatGPT, and I wanted to analyze a document with ChatGPT. And I pay $20 a month to get a proper pro version of ChatGPT. And at some point during this conversation, ChatGPT notifies me, FYI, I already forgot the original document that you sent to me. So we could continue this conversation, and I do have access to our conversations about the document, but that document has fallen out of my memory. Oh, so how does it happen? I looked it up. It's called tokens. Every conversation in ChatGPT is only given a certain amount of tokens, which is basically memory. And I believe the number is right now at 160, which means as soon as all 160 tokens of memory are taken up, either the conversation says we're maxed out, boom, goodbye, or they continue the conversation and they just let go of old memory. So as you're continuing the conversation past 160, it's gone. There's no memory of anything that happened in the old pieces of tokens of information, and it's gone. It's an amazing thing. I'm like, the conversation just went cold turkey. I don't know what you sent me, but I could continue talking to you based on what we spoke about in the previous messages. What was that? Since then. Since then, oh yeah. But the document, I don't even know what it is. It's an unbelievable thing. So ChatGPT, number one, is deeply unpersonal, and if the critical job of a rabbi is to be very personal and to answer situations to a personal person, it's not doing that whatsoever. Last week we had a story about the woman who comes to the rabbi in the early 1800s, the night before the Seder, and says, can I drink 4 cups of milk instead of 4 cups of wine? And the rabbi did not answer the question. The rabbi answered the person. I actually tried it on ChatGPT. I said, I'm a rabbi, and a woman came over to me and asked me if she can substitute 4 cups of wine with 4 cups of milk. What should I tell her? And you know what ChatGPT gave me? The answer to the question.
Choice. I mean, we know the question.
He answered the question, but didn't answer the person. It did not analyze 1 second. What is the larger? Why is she even asked this question? What are the implications of this question? Allah says, no, you're not allowed to. And it gives some reasons why you're not allowed to, which could be correct, but if a rabbi would do that, he just missed the boat. He missed the point. He lost the plot. Okay. So number one, okay, this is a very good point. Deeply unpersonal. What else?
Can chat do mitzvot?
It can't do mitzvot, but has access to other good books, theoretically.
But some mitzvot are action.
So it can't do it, but it can tell you what to do.
It can be useful because it can do a lot of research and bring materials, but it can't do the nuanced decisions like this time we're going to follow the minority rule because there's a cause for leniency here. I don't think it has the capacity to make those types of judgments. I think those are innately human.
So you're saying judgment calls where there's good arguments for this way and good arguments for that way. It could help give you some thoughts for discussion. I could research different texts that could lean the conversation this way, that way. But to make a decision, this is what we have to do, that's something which only a human could do. That's a good point. There's no real common sense. Yeah, there's no.
Like the rabbi and the milk in the Holland, right? There was a wedding.
Yeah. That's right. Which means under normal conditions, what would you say?
Answer the information you give it.
Yeah.
The question, and it can't go beyond that.
And I can't understand what are the ramifications. This is a case where we have to squeeze and try to, for example, a normal rabbi, you say a bottle of milk fell into that. That's a great example. I would just say, just why don't you make yourself a new dinner tonight? You know what I'm saying? Just throw it out. But over here in the stands, it's a big wedding, and we have to, is there a way we can make this kosher? Not by bending law, but within law, because of the need. Same thing with the wedding in Krakow, right? The wedding on Friday night. This takes a lot of judgment of the rabbi's personal integrity. All right, so what are some other ideas? What do you think? Is AI good enough? I want to share some more ideas with you. No, but I want some more reasons why not. So we got the idea that's unpersonal. We got another version of unpersonal, the critical decision making.
Well, I was thinking the common sense.
Common sense, that's right. I'll tell you something else.
And Torah was given to human beings.
Torah was given to human beings. Okay, we're going to get to that soon. There's a very common problem today with ChatGPT and all AIs, that AIs hallucinate terribly. Hallucination, which means they'll make stuff up out of thin air that is, and it will sound so convincing. This is the real danger of ChatGPT. I'll just tell you something. Somebody shared with me just over Purim a Dvar Torah from his rabbi. Someone share this with me. I don't want to say who the rabbi is. Share this. I read it. I can tell you with 1,000% certainty it's ChatGPT. Well, number one, it's very noticeable. ChatGPT is extremely noticeable, the style of writing. It's very unhuman. It's very unnatural. Even though they try making it with flair, it really is very noticeably. But not only that, the Dvar Torah, it sounded good on paper. It sounded good if you just looked at it very superficially. The moment you actually read it, the thing didn't make any sense. It contradicted itself in the middle of the Dvar Torah. It was like a thing about Esther. It sounded inspirational, but it actually was nothing. So it's just making stuff up out of thin air. That's a very, very scary thing. So we have stuff rampaging as Torah, and it's not even Torah. It's just made up gibberish. So, if you will ask ChatGPT a question, ChatGPT does not know how to say "I don't know." ChatGPT, now it's getting better at this, but really not good enough. I just tried this a few days ago when I was preparing for today's class. I said, "Can you please help me find who was the rabbi who introduced the custom to eat matzah on Rosh Hashanah and why?" Matzah on Rosh Hashanah. ChatGPT happily provided me a whole story about a rabbi who introduced the custom to eat matzah on Rosh Hashanah and explained the symbolism why matzah fits the theme of Rosh Hashanah. I said, "Can you please share with me your source?" He says, "Actually, I have no source." It made it up out of thin air. Never happened. No rabbi ever said you should eat matzah on Rosh Hashanah. You eat matzah on Pesach. But ChatGPT, I asked it a question, so it assumed, well, if he's asking, it probably it happened, so it'll just make something out of thin air. Wow. Now, you cannot rely on anything that ChatGPT tells you. You have to always go and verify it. Now, it's good for a resource to help you. There's a famous story when ChatGPT began that a lawyer was found with totally made-up cases. He didn't even do any due diligence. He just asked ChatGPT, I want to find some precedent case for this, right? And the court found that these things don't even exist.
He was punished by the court.
For sure, it's crazy.
It happened more.
That was more recent.
A lot.
It's happening a lot.
More than once.
Now,
More than once.
it's a very, very serious problem that
Don't write a letter anymore. They don't write a brief anymore because they don't know how to write anymore because they just have the ChatGPT do it.
ChatGPT writing it up. It's a helpful tool, but when it starts becoming a crutch, it's very terrible. That's another. The hallucination problem is a major flaw of AI today, and that is a very, very big discreditor for AI being involved in real decision making in halacha. There's also another issue I want to introduce to all of you, which is when you go to a rabbi with a halacha question, the integrity of his decision making is that he's looking in Torah text and giving you a Jewish Torah-based answer. The problem with AI is that the majority of data out there on the internet is not Jewish, is not Judaic, is not Torah, is not our belief system. So when it's giving you ideas, even if it's going to make it sound Jewish, at the end of the day, this is something that is trained not on our Torah, but is trained on secularism, or even worse. I had a little bit of a rude awakening on this recently. I asked ChatGPT to do a deep research on a certain word. I want to understand the shoresh, the source of a word in Hebrew, the verse. I gave it a verse, and I wanted to help it find for me some sources where it's discussed. What's the meaning of this word? Give a very impressive response. I look at its sources, and all of a sudden I realize it's part of its source. Many of them are Jewish sources. It's also feeding me Christian Bible study websites. I'm like, oi, I don't need to hear what the Christians have to say about this word in the Torah. I don't want any of that. But meanwhile, what did I just read? I just read a cocktail of data that ChatGPT gave to me, and that's terrible. This is not true to our faith. I don't know where they're getting the ideas. They're making it up. I don't want to know what a Christian scholar has to say about the Torah. So this is a very dangerous thing. You're going to ask AI to help you with a halachic decision making. Are they coming with our values? Are they coming? It's trained on the world, not on our Torah. This is a very, very scary, also a thing that you have to be very, very careful on. So, because of this and more, ChatGPT is very, very problematic. But let's even say, but here's where we can start having fun. Today, you look at ChatGPT today, you look at AI today, artificial intelligence today, it clearly does not hold up at all to the rigor, to the needs of halachic decision making on basically all of the accounts, which means if you look at the whole course, every single point that we brought up about what goes into deciding halacha, ChatGPT does not come to any of that. Even fact checking. Right? We spoke the lesson number 2 is about rabbis. I recently asked ChatGPT a very, very simple question about like math, diameter. Will this thing fit in a bag? And it just totally dropped the ball. It says it will fit, it did not fit, and I had to correct it. Like, oh yeah, you're right, it won't. So I'm relying on this machine to give me some. This was a pretty easy question. I just wanted it to figure out the math for me. Will this object, which is a funny shape, and these are the dimensions of it, fit in a flat bag? And is it going to be able to fit in, or is it going to be a tight fit? And meanwhile, it couldn't even help me with such a simple question. But let's say, hypothetically, we could make such a powerful AI that is going to be 100% Jewish, only trained on Jewish texts, and that is not going to make anything up, no hallucinations, and does real deep research and everything, and has human sensitivity and intuition and everything. Hypothetically, super machine.
Kosher.
Well, let's even say it like this. Here's a better hypothetical. Take the top rabbi today that's writing halachic responsa. Imagine if we have an AI that every single time this rabbi gets a question, we ask the rabbi and we ask the machine. We ask ChatGPT, the halachic ChatGPT. And for a full year straight, it has a perfect record that every single decision the rabbi makes and the thought process the rabbi used, ChatGPT follows that exact formula. Gets it right every single time. Imagine it, hypothetically. It's a possible hypothetical. Will we say, you know what? That's it. We've mastered the art. We got it. Will we say we don't need the rabbi anymore? We've learned the art, and now we have a machine doing it. Again, it's a hypothetical. You could say it's never going to happen. But it's a good question on a hypothetical. Will AI then be good enough for halachic responsa? And this is where I want to get to the very heart and soul of the halachic decision making, which is what we're going to finish the course with, and hopefully we don't go too overtime, just a little bit. And a little is very, very relative, you know what I'm saying? Relative to an hour and a half, a little, it could be 45 minutes. Okay. No, don't worry. So before we get going over here, there's a very critical difference, which we brought up earlier in the course. I want to bring it up again. There's a difference between when you ask a rabbi a question, where the answer has already been determined previously in Jewish history, and the only issue is just, I don't know the answer. So the rabbi helps give you direction to what the answer is and where it is. So for example, if you're going to ask me, what blessing do you make on this muffin over here? Is my response going to be Rabbinic Responsa? No. Why? Because it's already been determined what makes the blessing of mizonos, which would be the blessing of this. What are the criteria that has to be there for this food to be mizonos? And all I'm doing is taking already legal, it's already finalized data, and just, you don't know it, so I'll help you figure it out. That's not called rabbinic decision making. The same thing, when does Shabbos start this week? The formula has already been decided when Shabbos starts. So maybe you just don't know, so you'll ask a rabbi, do you know what time Shabbos starts this week? But essentially, they're not giving you, the real role of rabbinic response is when a rabbi is actually breaking ground. Judaism never ever dealt with this challenge over here. There is zero precedent. And a rabbi now has to actually bring Judaism into uncharted territory. That is the real art of a rabbi. So, ChatGPT and AI, it's a lot less problematic if you want to use it just to help you find the halachic source for this question. I don't know what should be done over here. Is my sukkah kosher? Is this shaped sukkah kosher? I have a weird shaped door. Where do I put the mezuzah? Okay, so ChatGPT, you got to be careful. You want to make sure you check its sources, but it can help you out. Where in Jewish law will I know? Based on Jewish law, can be searched what would be the kosher status of this. It's not deciding anything. That's really not as much of a problem. But making a decision, the Hebrew word is a psak, P-E-S-A-K. Psak, a psak halacha. We're deciding halacha right now. Brand new question, and somebody has to say, okay, this is the big responsibility to bring Judaism to this question right now. That is something which is much, much more serious. And as we're going to learn, that is something that AI absolutely cannot do. Even if it's a top-level machine which consistently gets the answer right, doesn't make a difference. Why not? I want to read with you a story in the Talmud. It is a relatively well-known story. It's a dramatic story. And if you look on page 247, this is what it looks like in the page of the Talmud. Takes up quite a big block of text over here in the Talmud. Here's a story. The sages are in Babylonia, ancient Babylonia. And a halachic question has come to them, and they need a vote. As the leading rabbis of the Sanhedrin, they're going to vote on what Jewish law is going to be. And whatever they determine is going to be Jewish law going forward. This is a very big moment. What they were discussing is not relevant right now, especially with the time it is right now. But the story is like this. All the sages felt to say it should be good or not good, okay, whatever they determined. And there's one sage, his name is Rabbi Eliezer, and he is the minority voice, the dissenting voice. Rabbi Eliezer feels that everybody else is wrong. And Rabbi Eliezer is so adamant that I got it right. Everybody else is just not thinking through this problem correctly, that he's giving a lot of pushback. Let's read the story in the Talmud. Text number 7. Richard, we're up to you, right?
Number 7.
Text 7, which is on page 245. Go back a drop.
On that day, Rabbi Eliezer brought forward every imaginable argument, but the sages did not accept them. Said Rabbi Eliezer, if my ruling is correct, let this carob tree prove it. Suddenly the carob tree was uprooted and moved a distance of 100 cubits. Others say 400 cubits. No proof can be brought from a carob tree, the sages retorted. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, if my ruling is correct, let the stream of water prove it. Immediately the stream of water began to flow backward. No proof can be found from the stream of water, the sages responded. He continued to urge, if my ruling is correct, let the walls of the academy prove it. The walls inclined to fall. Rabbi Yehoshua rebuked the walls, saying, scholars are engaged in halachic dispute. What right have you to interfere?
You ever spoke to a wall before? Big stuff over here. Hey, wow, what are you doing over here? Why mixing into our fights? Okay, keep on going.
The walls did not cave in completely in defense to Rabbi Yehoshua, nor did they resume their upright position in deference to Rabbi Eliezer. They are still standing, thus inclined. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, if my ruling is correct, let heaven prove it. A heavenly voice proclaimed, why do you argue with Rabbi Eliezer? His rulings are always correct. Rabbi Yehoshua rose and exclaimed, it is not in heaven. What did he mean? Said Rabbi Yirmiyah. Since the day the Torah was given at Mount Sinai, we ignore heavenly voices, for you have already written in the Torah, follow the majority.
There you have it. Unbelievable story. Very dramatic story. Rabbi Eliezer is pulling all the strings and getting heaven and earth to testify that he's right. Saying, wouldn't you change your opinion if you saw a carrot tree just move 150 feet? If this carrot tree moves 150 feet, I'm right. And then it moves. These rabbis just not buying anything. A heavenly voice comes out and says, why aren't Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer is always right. And the sages say, I'm sorry. And what do they say? They affirm to us a core truth of Judaism, which is, by the way, a very important rule for all Jewish history. It's one of the keys of our survival. The Torah was given on Sinai once. The Torah says this will never happen again. There's no version 2.0. Not even 1.1, 1.2, right? Not like a little upgrade. The Torah was given once on Mount Sinai. That was the one time you have heavenly voices telling you what Torah is. After that, there's no more heavenly voices. A prophet can't come and say, a heavenly voice, God told me that we got to make some amendments. Nothing. Judaism does not move forward by anything to do with heaven. It only moves forward by sages who study hard, use their better judgment, vote, and that becomes Jewish law. Nothing else. If you think about it, it would have been a lot easier if God says, listen, if there's ever any questions, we'll have prophets, I'll send heavenly messengers, we'll have carrot trees move around, and it'll be wonderful. And like this, there's no doubts, there's no questions. Heavenly voices and angels are always going to be at your assistance. It'll make everything a lot easier, right? But at the end of the day, what God wanted is the divine design. Halacha, it's not halacha if it's not Judaism, if it's coming from any other source, other than rabbis who are properly qualified, doing the due diligence, and giving a ruling. That is the only way Judaism moves forward. Nothing else matters. Which is, by the way, this was a very important defense for later on in Jewish history, when other religions all of a sudden come around, Christianity, Islam, and they say, our prophet believes in Judaism, but our prophet was told by God that now we got version 2.0. This became very important. I'm sorry. It could be a wonderful prophet. If you look in the whole Jewish Bible, what do prophets do? Prophets could give inspirational messages. They could predict futures. They could give inspiration, guidance. But practical halacha, your prophet means nothing. So right over here already you have the idea, if ChatGPT gives you an answer, even if it's the right answer, we don't care. You have no part of the process of deciding halacha. We need a human being who's going to do due diligence. And if they say, what's the halacha? Oh, that's the halacha. That's Judaism. But a machine, which means even if it's right, it doesn't make a difference. It's not right. You can say whatever you want. You did not make anything, you did not bring anything forward. Oh, so I wanted to share this with you. The word psak halacha, psak, which means deciding a new law, comes from the word
Pasuk.
Pasuk. What does it mean?
Paragraph.
No. What does a pasuk mean? A psak. It actually means a cut.
A what?
A cut.
Oh.
An incision. Why do we call a halachic ruling an incision? By the way, even in the English word you have that. The word decision comes from the same Latin root as incision, scissors. The word scissors and decision are related. It means we're making a cut. Clear cut. What does that mean? Until you cut it, I don't know. We have a lot of ideas here floating around. A cut means we're clearly defining the matter. This is where we're going to be settling it. This is the bottom line. A cut. A cut only a Jew of flesh and blood can do. You can have a machine who's brilliant, but that's not the one who has a spiritual power to actually bring Torah to earth. Only the human being can do that. Why not? Why did God want it to be this way? So here's a beautiful thought from a great rabbi, Rabbi Don Yitzchak Abarbanel, the Abarbanel. Let's read text number 8. Maybe we'll do one more text, but I want to wrap up with this big idea over here. On page 248. Shana.
If prophets were authorized to resolve doubts regarding the mitzvot of the Torah, the sages would grow lax in their study, analysis, and understanding of the Torah. They would no longer toil over it each day, nor would they push themselves to uncover its depths, instead relying on the interpretations and ruling of the prophets. Even the insights they did attain through careful investigation would remain uncertain in their eyes, as they would hesitate to trust their own conclusions without hearing confirmation from a prophet. But since prophets are not entrusted with interpreting the Torah and its commandments, the sages are compelled to apply themselves to study deeply and to trust their conclusions because they have nothing to rely on other than their confident minds.
It's a very true point. If the prophets had all the answers to everything, why study Torah? Why ever trust yourself if you came up with a good idea in Torah? I don't know. Yeah. So what happens is people stop learning good. There's less investment. God wanted that we as Jews should work hard on learning Torah. We should know the buck stops by us. No one's going to tell us the truth other than ourselves. So it encourages that we should learn properly and not just be given on a silver platter, but the whole way Judaism moves forward is by Jews really studying hard, breaking their heads over questions, and coming to clarity only through their own effort. If we have AIs that are just spitting out to us information, this goes against this core principle. God wants us to do the hard work, to be the product of the Jewish people learning Torah and working hard. And this is a major Jewish value. We should work hard studying Torah. Studying Torah is not something that should come easy. If it's hard to study Torah, like right now, we're all tired. It's the way it's meant to be. Break your head over studying Torah. Be bothered by a question. Work hard to work through an issue. One final thought over here. And this goes back to a little bit what Max said before, which is a very, very critical piece. Whenever a rabbi is going to give a determination, a cut, in a new question, it's not so clear-cut. The reason why you need an expert rabbi is because there's good arguments this way, there's good arguments that way. And just because the final law is kosher or not kosher, do this or don't do this, or whatever, that doesn't mean there aren't good arguments in the other direction as well. The job of a rabbi is not just to look back and collect all the data, but the job of the rabbi, the real weight of a rabbi's authority is his ability to decide which argument ultimately is going to be the strongest argument, have the most weight, and this can be the determining factor. That ability to make that cut, that expert cut, just like a doctor has to make an expert call. There's good arguments to do this. There's good arguments why not to do this. It's risky, but you know what? I feel I'm going to make a judgment call. We got to do this in this case. You don't want a machine doing that for you. You want to have a doctor who's well-trained, has good intuition, good sensitivity, cares about you, cares about his field, and will be able to give a good answer. So could ChatGPT give you more thoughts, more arguments, this way, that way? For sure it could. But it will never have the authority and the weight, not only the authority from God, but even like from ourselves. We don't want ChatGPT telling us how to make that sensitive cut. Only a rabbi is the one that's authorized by the Torah to do that. So let's read that in text number 9, an unbelievable text from when Moshe was on Mount Sinai learning Torah from God. And Richard, help us out over here. You got a double one for tonight. Text 9, page 249.
Beware, lest you forget the Lord.
No.
What?
Text 9.
Oh, I skipped
249.
Okay. For each law that God told Moses, he would enumerate 49 arguments that an object was ritually pure and 49 arguments that the object was ritually impure. Moses said before him, Master of the universe, how long will we struggle to arrive at a clear decision? God responded, follow the majority. If the majority rules impure, it is impure. If the majority rules pure, it is pure.
There's always going to be good arguments why yes, there's always going to be good arguments why not. Every single rabbi, by the way, if a rabbi ever comes up with a decision, you could always argue with him and say, I see good arguments for the other side. You know what the rabbi will tell you? Yeah, I also do. Of course, there's 49 arguments for this way, there's 49 different arguments for the other way. Why did I make this judgment call? That's why they pay the big bucks. Or not. I don't think these guys are getting paid well. But this is the real way. This is what God authorized us. Only a Jew, a human being who does a due diligence and has the help from Hashem to come to the right answer is going to be able to answer the question, even when there's good arguments for both sides. So will AI be a good tool to help assist rabbis in doing research and helping think through different sides of an argument? For sure. It can be a good tool, but it will never be the one doing the hard work, the real due diligence, and coming to the psak, the cut, the final determination. And because of that, we are not worried as rabbis that we're going extinct anytime soon. So don't worry about that. Dear friends, I want to conclude with a little story. And then we're going to finish our course with this. The first Chabad Rebbe, which actually we quoted a few weeks ago. No, last week we quoted about the fifth factor. Remember that about changing the text of the Siddur? Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi. He passed away in the early 1800s. The first Rebbe of Chabad. He had a grandson who would eventually succeed him, who would be the third Rebbe of Chabad. And when his grandson was a young man, he said, I want to give you a blessing. A blessing that studying Torah should be easy for you. And that you should be able to master Torah with superhuman effort. It should be, minimal effort. And the young grandson said, I don't want the blessing because the Jewish value is you're supposed to work hard to study Torah. I don't want it to come easy for me. So Rebbe said, no problem. You got a good point. You're not getting the blessing. You know what? I'm not going to give it to you. When he got older, this grandson, he says, I have tremendous regret that I didn't take the blessing. Because no matter how much you have, you could always work harder to get more. So I could have had both. I could have had the blessing for my grandfather to supercharge my study, and I could also add it on my own, the hard work. So dear friends, the real message I want to share with you from learning this course is that this is an unbelievable thing. Most Jews don't have such a good understanding of the process of how Judaism evolves, how serious it is, the different factors that go into it. You have it. But the real inspiration for every single one of us is this value, that the Jewish value is the Torah was given to us, to nobody else. We are the stakeholders. We're the shareholders. We're the owners of the Torah. Not even the angels could tell us what's right and what's wrong. And the value is to work hard to study Torah. This has to be something which we dedicate ourselves to. Every single day to study Torah, let it be a little bit difficult. Let it be something which we're mastering, that we're seeing in ourselves, that we're growing. Our minds, our hearts are growing. Our appreciation is growing from studying Torah. And I hope this course inspired all of us to appreciate a little bit more our heritage, our beautiful tradition, the Torah that we have, to value the mitzvahs that we have, to realize just how much hard work and integrity, grit, blood and sweat went into the creation of Judaism as we have it today, and to also be confident in the way Judaism is going to continue on forward, that we got a good system in place. It's the truth, it's goodness coming from Sinai, continuing till today. We have a good system in place until we merit to the coming of Mashiach, when we'll have all the good peace and the whole Torah is going to reach where the destination always was, to a world of goodness and kindness with the coming of Mashiach. Dear friends, it's 8:45. You've all been wonderful. Thank you for joining such a wonderful course. May God bless you all. There you go. Give yourselves a good round of applause. And God should bless all of us, that we should get together for many more good, happy, healthy occasions. More good times of doing good Jewish things together. And I look forward to more great Jewish study together.